Epic Mickey is a game that's all about forgotten characters and scrap concepts from old Disney projects. So, what happens when the dev team behind Epic Mickey scraps something? Does it just fall past Wasteland into the abyss? Warren Spector, I need answers. Every piece of media that goes through a development cycle will end up coming up with an idea, only to scrap it at some point further down the line, due to various reasons. Heck, even with things like my YouTube channel, for every video idea or jokey comedy bit I end up creating, there are probably two I've forgotten about or dropped from the video at some point. So of course Epic Mickey is no different. Heck, there's even a whole category on the Epic Mickey wiki for scrap content. Both games are a range of scrapped ideas, characters, lands, and even entire games that were scrapped. So let's get into them, starting with the biggest elephant in the room, the scrapped games. After the runaway success of Epic Mickey 2 was quickly pushed into development. But simultaneously, some more games were being developed by the team at Junction Point, although they had yet to be officially greenlit. It's no secret that Warren Spector is a massive fan of the Disney Duck family, and was apparently constantly trying to convince Disney to let him do a duck game. As he said in an interview, "The day does not go by where I don't tell someone at Disney, Uncle Scrooge, come on, Donald, Huey, Dewey and Louie, come on, let me do a duck game." Epic Donald supposedly began development in mid-2011 in collaboration with Blitz Games, and it was relatively far in development in terms of game mechanics and story. The game would have taken place in the world of Carl Barks' original Duck comics, with the player controlling Donald Duck going on a ton of different wacky adventures, such as a trip to the carnival, into space, back in time, and my personal favourite, shrinking down into a miniature ghost house to rescue Scrooge from the grip of a ghost in love. As well as starring Donald and the McDuck family, the game would also star Mickey and Goofy in their more contemporary appearances, which would have been a first for Junction Point. The game got to the point of having playable prototypes, with a rather bold new version of Mickey, but alas, it was a victim of Junction Point's closure in 2013. The other most well-known scrap Junction Point game is Epic Disney Races. Not as much is known about this game, all we have is some concept art, so it probably didn't get far enough into development to get playable prototypes. What we do know is that the game would have featured epic Mickey characters like Mickey, Oswald, and the Mad Doctor, as well as more iconic characters like Minnie Mouse, Scrooge McDuck, and the Duck Triplets. We can get a bit of a taste of the final product in Epic Mickey 2 in the Autotopia minigame. From the Wii version of Epic Mickey 2, the minigame doesn't really control well, the joystick is really sensitive, at least in my opinion. If the game had been made, I'm sure it would have been more optimized for the racing games, probably with a controller layout similar to Mario Kart Wii. And now we've got to the final boss of unmade Junction Point games. We've got Epic Mickey 3. During interviews conducted even during the development of the original Epic Mickey, Junction Point stated that he intended for the series to be a trilogy. The reality is, I always plan a trilogy. I don't want to go into any project unless I have the knowledge, the sure belief that the game could support more games. The world is robust enough, the characters are rich enough. Hints of this unmade sequel are scattered throughout the game, mostly in the form of what the several different Petes get up to. Big Bad Pete disappears from his station on the Mean Street Town Hall in favour of the museum, then disappears entirely in the epilogue. I'll get to that later. The other Petes are seen working for the Mad Doctor, such as Pete Pan in Ventureland, Small Pete in the Projector Substation, and Petetronic at Club 13. Some Pete costumes are in the Mad Doctor's attic, and the most obvious reference to Epic Mickey 3 is a post-credit scene of the Petes with the captured gremlin Prescott, and Big Bad Pete making some vague statements about other Wastelanders not going to know what hit them. This game didn't get to the point that it had playable levels, at least that we know of. We did have some statements from Junction Point devs about what they wanted to include in the game, most notably, again, from Warren Spector. In Mickey 3, I really wanted to up the multiplayer action. What we did in Mickey 2 was pretty simple. I also wanted to make a truly interactive musical game. I have some weird ideas about how to use music, and how to make music in the context of a game that no music game has done. We also have some concept art, one of which shows that Hortensia would have been a playable character, with unique abilities like using her dress to glide and turning her arms to stone to bash enemies. The other piece of concept art shows Pete dressed up as Snow White, while the real Snow White is trapped behind a mirror. We also know that the game would have left Wasteland and gone into the cartoon world. This game seems to be the most likely for a revival if Epic Mickey Rebrush sells well, although Warren Spector has said that due to his day job, this would be impossible for him to fully commit to leading an Epic Mickey sequel. Those are the big three unmade Junction Point games. It's kinda sad that Junction Point has more unmade games than released ones, but hopefully if Epic Mickey Rebrushed sells enough copies, we'll see an Epic Mickey Renaissance. But best not to jinx myself. Even in the 2 Epic Mickey games that saw releases, there was a ton of cut content, even entire lands being scrapped fairly late in the development process. In the opening scene of Epic Mickey, there are 2 worlds on the Wasteland map that don't exist anywhere else in the game, these being the Beanstalk Factory and Wonderland. Wonderland would have been based on the 1951 Disney version of Alice in Wonderland, which isn't exactly forgotten, but there probably would have been elements from older scrap versions of the film. As well as Walt Disney's first live-action combining with animation series, the Alice Comedies. This level presumably would have had Mickey take down a version of the Red Queen, although for what purpose is unknown, the only one I can think of being that she would be holding a 4th rocket part. We have a few different pieces of concept art for this level, the most widely shared one being this art of Mickey dashing across a giant checkers board, with a giant twisted Cheshire cat looking down on him. All the other pieces of concept art depict a giant maze that Mickey probably would have had to go through to find the Red Queen. Based on its appearance in Epic Mickey's opening cutscene, the final area would probably have been in the Red Queen's castle. The area was scrapped for 2 reasons, one being time constraints, and the second being that the 2010 Tim Burton reimagining of Alice in Wonderland was also in production, with that film also featuring a twisted and dark version of Wonderland. I suppose Disney didn't want 2 Dark Wonderlands in one year. As stated before, the Wonderland area is seen on the Wasteland map during the opening cutscene of Epic Mickey, but is the land right next to where the hole where the thinner and the blot enter Wasteland, presumably destroying it like how Autotopia was presumed destroyed in Epic Mickey 2. Even though the land was scrapped, both Epic Mickey and Epic Mickey 2 have a couple of Wonderland-esque areas. The ticket booth area in the Gremlin Village has the Mad Hatter Hat Ride at Disneyland, and the float yard has a lot of pieces of Alice in Wonderland characters just scattered around the place. The other scrapped area in the first Epic Mickey was the Beanstalk Factory, and almost nothing is known about what would actually be in there, since any concept art of the inside has yet to surface. Although it probably would have gotten pretty far in development since it appears in Epic Mickey's opening cutscene. There was also going to be a level that took place inside the jug that the Blot was trapped in. This would have had Ursula take on Mickey for some reason. I don't know how he got into the jug, but you know, he got in there and he has to fight Ursula. Epic Mickey 2 has so much scrap content, you could probably make a whole new game based on just the scrap levels. There are going to be levels based on Robin Hood, The Jungle Book, and The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Several locations from Epic Mickey 1 were going to be revisited, such as Tomorrow City, a second Dark Beauty Castle level, Wonderland, and a projector screen based on the pink elephant scene from Dumbo, which was actually fully created before being replaced. Those are all the levels that we know of, although truth be told, there are probably more. Power Revolution also had a cut Wonderland level, but that's about it in terms of what we know. There are more scrapped concepts in Epic Mickey, such as characters and story elements, but I'll get into that next week in another video of random Epic Mickey videos until Rebrush comes out. So, do you think that Rebrushed should keep things that were scrapped in the original game? Do you reckon they should just keep it faithful to the original release? Tell me down in the comments. Like, subscribe, do all that good stuff, and I'll see you next week. Oh yeah, and also my eardrum burst.